Everybody, welcome back to another exciting episode of the Stash Report from the Stash Project. Today is the 26th of January, 2018. It is the federal holiday known as my wife's birthday, so happy birthday to her. We have a few announcements from Aoshima. They've added a couple of pre-paints for February, as well as their slate of releases for April. We also have a number of kit releases for the month, or for this week, I should say. See, again, stuck in this once-a-month video thing that even after 3 weeks I'm still not quite out of saying. So, over at Aoshima, on the February pre-paints, they are going to reissue their Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 in its red and metallic black boxings, two separate kits there, and their Initial D AEA6 Toyota Truno. From the original comic book series, also as a pre-paint, so already got the white and the black painted for you and all the rest of that happiness. As we talked about, always Aoshima pre-paints are pre-painted from top to bottom. You just have to deal with, of course, all of the mold lines and attachment points and things like that. Good weekend builds, but that's where they're at. they're at least pre-painted the whole way through, unlike, again, Revell's pre-paints where the body's painted and then everything else is up to you. Over in April, they have again, we're still rolling with the new marketing plan that it started last year at this point, where there's the model car stuff that's just normal, the tune model car, which is more their tuner lineup, and then wheels and pre-paints and detail upsets. So on the model car side of things, they're going to reissue their 1/20th scale Honda Step Van. This is an old kit from I'm gonna say early 80s, maybe even earlier than that, of that generation Honda Step Van, which is a vehicle we never got here in the United States, but is a gigantic box on wheels before gigantic box on wheels were cool. This is going to have a lot of the parts from a lot of the versions of this step van through the years. In the promotional material, it states it's going to have 2 sets of wheels, come with the roof rack and surfboards. So there was obviously a beach version of this and a camping version and things like that. So it's going to have a whole slew of those parts put back into it. It's still a best car vintage. It's still a former motorized toy turned into a model kit, but it does, like I said, come with all the parts. So if you're interested in that, your opportunity comes back to sort of grab it with everything in it. They're going to reissue the Volkswagen Beetle 1303S Cabriolet. This is the sister kit to the regular 1303S Volkswagen Beetle. This, again, is the old IMEI tooling. This is also the kits that Italeri just reissued last fall. Or this past fall, I guess I should say. I mean, it is last fall, but just this past fall that happened. The IMEI kits are they're junk. It is the only way to make a Super Beetle. I know that. I understand that from Volkswagen fans. However, it still doesn't take care of the fact that there's a battery box still molded into the floor, that the majority of the chassis is the battery box cover, and the fact that the interior in it is incredibly shallow, which makes it look all the better when there's no roof on it. So, buyer beware with those. I know that the Revell of Germany Beetle Cabriolet is not the same year or same model as this one is, but it's such a superior kit if you need to have a Cabriolet. Just, unless you absolutely have to have a 1303S, there's no reason whatsoever to buy these kits. It is, even at $18, $20, it's just a vast well of disappointment. And this is from personal experience of having had one of the regular 1303Ss in the past. It's no, just don't even come with stock wheel covers, even though the box shows it. So there's that too. Also on the reissue slate for the model car thing, the lineup is the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 Final. That's just a reissue that was already boxed into this series, but it's just something else they're going to be running, as well as the 1996 Honda Accord Station Wagon. This will be done as either a Sear, which is sort of the top-of-the-line sporty model, also a VTX, which is sort of the stripped-down model. So there'll be a couple sets of wheels in here to cover the different wheel options. I have one of the Sear wagons myself. I don't think it comes with the parts for the VTX in it necessarily, so I can't compare to say whether there's different front valance in it or there's any kind of extra interior parts or anything else like that. But I know there will be two different sets of wheels in here because the Sear has sort of a, I want to say a turned aluminum wheel because I don't think it's necessarily that grandiose, but it has a sporty-ish style wheel cover if it's not an actual aluminum wheel, and then the VTX has a hubcap style wheel, so there's definitely a difference in the wheels there. Excuse me. It's been a while since the Honda Accord has been reissued. I want to say it's probably, we're looking at 4 years maybe since the last time this kit was out, and it was out on a very limited edition basis, so this is going to be put into the catalog, as it were. So if you happen to be looking for one of these kits for some reason, it's one of those things where either you have it, you don't care about it, or this is the first time you ever heard that there is a 1996 Honda Accord station wagon. So if you're in that group and you're like, ho, then your chance to buy one of these for a reasonable amount of money. They creep up on eBay every time they go out of production for some reason. Over on the Toon Motor Car lineup, they're going to be reissuing the Toyota 86 Rocket Bunny Volk Racing Wheel Edition. This is the car with the black box art. They have already packaged the Enki Racing Wheel, which is the one in the red box art, into this series. It was one of the first Toon model cars, boxings, actually. So if they're finally putting the black car in the box art, they're going to reissue the Mitsubishi Lancer Evo 10 Rally Art. Why this kit is a kit you care about if you like Mitsubishi Evo 10s is because this is the only kit that Aoshima made that has the left-hand drive parts in it. There are only 5 parts. The dashboard, the scuttle panel, 2 windshield wipers, and there's like I believe a different shift parking brake combination for the center console, because obviously when you have a right-hand drive car, your parking brake is, on the other side of your shifter, the way it is, when you're left-hand drive, so that they swap the parking brake on the other side of the shifter. But that's all the left-hand drive parts there are to it. I like the kit just because it's got a cool set of rims and a more aggressive front fascia and a wing. I think it's a really of tuner type body aero package and stuff like that. It's one of my personal favorites. I mean, they're right up there. That's why I'm looking off camera. I like the C West versions of the Evo 10 too, but I really like the Rally Art version better. The car is black. It's molded in black. Although I believe the last one was reissued was molded in white, so your results may vary as far as what color it's actually going to come in. However, it's just, to me, it's more aggressive, but not goofy body kit, and I like it. So there's that, and plus, always, the left-hand drive parts, left-hand drive parts, left-hand drive parts. I don't know why they won't put the left-hand drive parts, considering it's a little sprued onto itself, into the rest of them, but they don't, and the only way to get it is through that kit. Also, last on the Toon model car things, they're going to reissue their Daihatsu Copen Pandera 887 Evo 2. Now, what this is the Daihatsu Copen with a very, very aggressive front and rear and side skirt aero treatment, some really big aero wheels that sort of look like monoblock style wheels. These Pandora tuner versions of the Copens haven't been available for 5 years or so, at least fresh. I mean, you can go on eBay and look them up. You can find them still. They were made, in excess, but they're not frontline retail to find them. I think the reissue on this is like $18. You're not going to find one of them floating on eBay for $18 or more than that. So if you're interested in that, which is one of the few Copens I don't have, is the Pandera one, so that is definitely something I'll look into picking up in April. Now you can pick it up as well. They're going to reissue the Pagani detail upset for the Warrior, reissue in 14-inch wheel sets, the Focus Racing, and the 8-spoke wheel sets. There are no, as of yet, wheel sets for the month of April, and I know for some people who are like really, into the wheel thing that Aoshima's been doing, there's been a new set of, either 18, 19, 20, or 14-inch wheels basically since the beginning of last year, where they started rolling out wheels pretty much all the time. I will say that, consider this the calm before the storm, if you will, because this is April's kit releases. In May is the Shizuoka Hobby Show. So, I don't know necessarily if May will have, anything in it wheel-wise, other than maybe some reissues in it, but for the summer into the fall, there should be a slate of, four sets of wheels every month going forward. Now, are there going to be stuff that hasn't been done for a while and are really elusive, like the 14-inch wheels were? I don't know what the wheels are. I gotta be, honest to God, I don't pay that much attention to wheels in the first place. Crucify me if you want to, but there should be more wheels coming. So if we're like, oh, okay, here comes April's wheels, and they're just a couple reissues of the 14-inch wheel sets that have already been done, and they're just re-releases. Hang out. We look forward to seeing. There's more than not. Well, myself and my friends are very much looking forward to seeing what Aoshima has on tap for the Shizuoka Hobby Show. Whether or not we see any of it at Nuremberg coming up in February, it remains to be seen. Like, one year they had a whole bunch of stuff, they showed a whole bunch of stuff, then last year they were very, very secretive about stuff, and the Pagani thing got leaked. So it remains to be seen what is shown there and what their views are. A few people say, that the 2018, for the most of it, once we cleared up the end of 2017, or 2017, I should say, once we cleared up 2016's kits, once we got all, like, the Diablos and everything out, 2017 was mostly reissues of old Nissans, period. Really, a couple of Toyotas thrown in there, but it was all a bunch of, all a bunch of reboxings of the Glorias and Cedrics from the 330 through the 430, or actually through the Y31 series. You could both cars in one box, pick your poison as to which model you built, and then they did new wheels and tires and certain things for a whole slew of their Skyline kits from the 68 four-door GTR up through the R30 generation, which was the most recent one that they did. What are they doing? They did these, the Pro Box fans. There's not any European cars. There's not anything other than really Japanese-centric cars, unless you like Japanese cars, in which case you were like, hey, look, I can buy all these cool kits with some new pieces thrown in, a lot of extra pieces that they haven't had because they have more than one set of wheels. I have, you guys know from watching the in the box videos or inside the stash videos, that I got a good chunk of those Skylines along with the Glorias and the Cedrics, and I probably have, in buying all of those kits, acquired, 15 extra sets of wheels that, granted they're certain size for the Skylines and the Cedric and Glorias, but, I've got a huge supply of wheels now just by buying through those kits. They're the same sets of wheels for the most part, but I have options to put into other kits if I wanted to, or just, give them to people or pitch them or whatever I'm going to end up doing with all these sets of wheels. Don't panic, I'm not going to pitch them. But it was a good source of extra parts. Is the gist of the story, and so I was okay with what they did, because some of these Skylines I had sort of avoided because they didn't come with stock wheel covers, and I know for a lot of people that doesn't matter. They're not going to build them factory stock, but for my personal collection, I want to build them as close to factory stock as I could get them, and they all came with goofy custom wheels. Well, not goofy custom, but custom wheels, mesh wheels, Volks, all these oddball 1980s rims that were thrown into these kits back in the day, and they never actually had factory stock hubcaps. There was never one made. That was the thing. It wasn't like I could go buy Kit X 10 times and steal all the wheels out of it and then have a whole bunch of these factory stock wheels. They didn't exist. They were just tooled up last year. So for somebody like me who builds factory stock, it was great to have all these kits reissued. So what is Aoshima going to do for 2018? Well, this is where we're headed, is the Shizuoka Hobby Show. We will find out. Are they going to remain, focused on a JDM audience? I mean, a lot of what may cause that is the fact that, their head of international sales left the company, actually, May of 2016, I think it would be, right? No, I think it might have been May of 2017. May of 2017, he left. He's got his new thing going over at a company called Rocket Model, which eventually is going to have some automotive stuff. Right now, they're working on these odd sci-fi Nazi 1/72 scale tanks, which is why we haven't talked about them, because that's not what we do here, is armor in the first place. But there's going to be more stuff coming out of that, like I said, in the automotive sense eventually. We thought it would be this year, but it looks like it's going to be 2018. So be it. I don't know. I'm just to me, it's I don't have this need to have. I would love to have The Hurricane Performante, I'd love to have the Aventador R, I think it is, or S, or whatever the next Aventador is after the Super Veloce. There's another one after that. I mean, I'd love for them to keep going with that, and hopefully they will. But at the same time, you know, I have all of the stuff to build still, so it's not like I've built all my Aventadors and, you know, I need the next one. So I'm okay with whatever they do, pretty much, unless they just decide to close down and just, you know, well, that's it. We're not doing anything else. But you know, the Pro Box thing, expect to see more of those through 2018. It's a brand new kit, and like they said, there's going to be a whole bunch of stuff coming out of that. Tooling, older ones, VIP stuff, so there's going to be some more Pro Boxes. But you know, we'll see what else they do with the year going forward, because you have, you know, basically, if you're new to the channel, a lot of new subscribers in the last month, Japanese manufacturers, for the most part. Now, Fujimi itself does not go to trade shows, except for one in the summer called Wonderfest. But the rest of the hobby as a whole is all based, well, Fujimi's based there too, but they're all based in a city called Shizuoka. Now, there's a show in May called the Shizuoka Hobby Show. And then there is one in October called the All Japan Model and Hobby Show, which is held in Tokyo. So these are our two big main points of information as far as new kit releases. Basically, in May, you get from May through basically October, and then from October, you get the end of the year and into the spring. Aoshima was actually on time with all of their releases pretty much this year. You could say that's because there weren't vastly complicated European sport supercars like the Aventador and Pagani, and the Diablo, which was the most recent supercar. There is that, I suppose. The Pro Box is a curbside, and it's very, you know, it's maybe 70, 80 pieces between the two, including the hubcaps and the Succeed version. So, you know, that it's an more easier thing to do. You don't have to send people to Italy to measure it. It's there in Japan and all that sort of thing. So, it'll be interesting to see. I'm intrigued going forward to see what we're going to get, because obviously we know in February you're going to get the Isuzu Gemini Irmscher from Hasegawa. Going into, you know, the rest of 2018, you're going to get another version of the Civic, because that first-gen Civic was just released before the end of the year, and then you have the Gemini. So you know you're going to get multiple variations of those kits without even thinking about it. There's 17 pieces in the first-gen Civic kit that aren't used in the kit itself, so there's obviously more coming there, and you know we haven't seen the instructions for the Gemini yet. As far as what the, you know, I've seen the parts runner layout, but I can't correspond that to anything without the instructions to see what I would be using, what I'm not, because, you know, showing you an overview picture that, you know, even on your biggest laptop screen, it's going to be this big, it's hard to tell what is what, you know, obviously chassis, interior things, but like all these little bits and pieces and trim things, what are they about? So, those two things will go forward through Hasegawa, but I don't think Hasegawa stops there. I mean, Hasegawa hit on something with the Nissan Sunnies, the pickup trucks, because they were extremely popular. They spawned, you know, the Hakasuka C1 trans kit, which sold them a slew of kits unintentionally. It's not like Chris Hales and Hasegawa had this thing going, that, you know, in collusion, but it was a result of that. And then you had the Honda N360s. Those sold extremely well through 3 variations of it. Then you went into the Suzuki Jimny. The Suzuki Jimny has sold extremely well through 3 variations of that. And now you have this first-gen Civic, and this, what I believe it would technically be a second-gen Isuzu Gemini. The Civic sold really well. The Gemini is on order stop everywhere, so its pre-orders are sold out in Japan. You know, they're rolling out the hits right now, as far as, you know, as far as their marketing goes. So I don't expect them to, you know, like, okay, well, the Gemini's out, we're done for the year, we're just going to give you a reissue. So what are the new tools you're going to get out of Hasegawa? You know, it was always an even odd year thing with Tamiya, as far as, you know, odd years you got military stuff, even years you got car kits. So, you know, are we going to get another car kit out of Tamiya that's new? Are we going to get the revisioned? Technically that's a word, but not the one I wanted to use. A revised version of the AMG GT with the correct headlights, the ones for 2017 going forwards, so that we can make newer versions of that race car, because we've talked about before the way the parts runners are laid out. The headlights and the wheels are on a extension of the runner on the chassis runner, and there's a spot for it on the top where you could put another set of headlights and wheels. So maybe we get a liveried version of that at some point during 2018. It'd be very interesting to see if it would be a Good Smile Racing kit, because the Good Smile Racing car is obviously something Fujimi did all for, what, 6 years they did that. They did those kits. They stopped sponsoring the car. I don't think Tamiya sponsors it either, but they won the championship in that GT3 class in 2017. So, be interesting to see them do a liveried version with the correct headlights. I mean, the headlights that are in the kit are not incorrect for 2016, but they're not correct for 2017 and going forward. So, or we're going to get like something else. We had the Acura NSX, you got the new MX-5, the new Miata, and then now you're in this race car kit, so we get something else race car. A lot of people want that Acura NSX GT3 car, which I'm not sure at this point is a viable kit, because again, they're just starting to really roll that out globally as far as the teams. It needs to like run a season maybe to have some success. As far as, you know, what's going to happen with that, in a sense, like they want to have 30 teams run it, but how successful a car is it going to really be? There were some teams that ran it in IMSA WeatherTech this past year. There's going to be more in IMSA WeatherTech this year, and you're going to start seeing it rolled out, you know, globally through Blancpain and all the rest of the race car divisions that run GT3 classes. You know, a Ferrari 488, or, you know, be 488 GT3 class, you know, would be great. I mean, yeah, there's the Model Factory Hero 124 scale kit over here, but that's like a multimedia $300 model kit, and I don't think that competes with a $50 Tamiya kit. The Lamborghini Hurricane GT3 would be great, but I think that almost has to be a Oshima kit, because they own the licensing for Lamborghini right now. I mean, nobody owns it, but they're the ones that have the most active Lamborghini licensing. I don't know. I'm interested to see if we go someplace else with the race car kits, or if we go someplace else with some other, you know, Tamiya kit. I don't know. And then Fujimi, you know, Fujimi's what Fujimi is. They're gonna keep plowing along with what they've got going on. They still haven't released the one version of the Velside van, or of the Alfred van tooling that they've done. They seem to be milking this new 911 Group 5 car, even though it only ran for 2 seasons, and there are only 2 cars ever made of it, for all it's worth, because we're on the 3rd reissue of that coming up here soon. So, I don't know. It should be interesting, this coming up, because we should find out about those Japanese kits towards the middle of next month, the very beginning of March, because they will announce in advance of the actual show, so that places like HobbyLink and Japan and Hobby Search and all these other, you know, Japanese vendors can list the kits for pre-sale, because if you're going to release a kit in May, you need to have it up for pre-sale about 45 to 60 days in advance, so that you can actually sell it going forwards. So, fun stuff all around. One other thing, teaser, I guess, would be the fact that the Heller has put out their 2018 catalog. Yes, Heller is not dead, as it turns out. I knew they weren't dead in the first place. They were just, you know, they changed ownerships last year. And one of the things that they had put out there for 2017, before they went into receivership, because they went to the Nuremberg Toy Fair in 2016, and then went bankrupt right afterwards, within like 3 weeks. One of the things they had put out there for like the end of 2016, beginning of 2017, was a Renault Estafette van. If you've been here long term, you know about this kit. It was 125 pieces, full detail. Continuing along the things they were doing with the Citroën Mahari, the Citroën HY, the Renault 4, all of these, you know, French cars, full detail, you know, Tamiya-like quality, not really there, but, you know, they're way above where Heller ever was in the 1980s, basically. And they brought the catalog out here a couple weeks ago, or maybe it was just a couple days ago, and somebody just pointed it out to me. I haven't been paying attention. And it's back on there. The 2018 release, supposedly third, fourth quarter now, is going to be the Estafette van. And it will, there's both Estafette vans, the civilian one, which is the picture there, and the police version. As far as other things that are on there, there's nothing new tooling, automotive-wise. It's basically all the stuff they promised you last year, but never brought you. Like, the only kit that I can recall from the 2017 Nuremberg Toy Fair that actually showed up in 2017 was the reboxing of the Ferguson Tractor 2-pack, where you had 2 whole tractors in one box that'll let you build. One is the English version and one is the French version. And I think there was also a rebox of their 2CV, their Citroen 2CV, that allowed you to build like 2 or 3 different like 70s and 80s specific model, like the Dolly 2CV and things like that. Those are basically the only 2 Citroen kits that had been promised for 2017 that actually came out. We never got the Talbot record reissue. I believe the Talbot Grand Prix car did come out, but the Talbot record, which is the convertible from like the I guess it would be what early 1950s, that didn't show up like it was supposed to. So there's a bunch of stuff that has been added to it that are reissues, but it's a lot. Like I said, it's always Heller's reissue. It's round 2 in France. But like I said, the Estafette van finally seems to be coming out for sure. There were no livery decals from Studio 27 for the month of January. The only decals, they never even updated their website this month. Everybody took a vacation at Studio 27. The only decals that really came out of Studio 27 this month were a carbon fiber detail set for the Hobby Nunu BMW M6 GT3. Those decals are out. Pretty robust set of decals. I'll probably end up picking up some eventually. They're just the M6 isn't really high on my build priority list right now. I know it's shocking, but I got like 6 things going on right now, and I'm trying to get at least a couple of them actually off the bench before I start boxing them back onto shelves into Neverland again. And then that was pretty much it. They reissued some liveries. They reissued the SAP, the number 4 car, the winning car from Nuremberg, but they didn't do any actual liveries this month. The fact they did the M6 GT3 carbon fiber gives me hope that they will do some M6 liveries at some point, and that kit won't be abandoned in the wilderness like a lot of the other BMAX kits have been with decal manufacturers that aren't rally cars. Hobby Design has a photo etch detail upset coming, that you see here. This is going to come out on Monday in Hong Kong. It's a February release for HobbyLink Japan and everywhere else. I have started going to buying my Hobby Design stuff at Hobby Easy, the Hong Kong retailer we talk about all the time, mainly because the stuff comes out sooner and because you're buying a Chinese, well, it's a Hong Kong, but Chinese manufactured product in China, it is cheaper. This detail upset is $30 at Hobby Easy. It's $38 at HobbyLink Japan. That $8, you know, adds up if you're going to buy a couple things. You start buying like the full-on resin trans kits. Like the resin trans kit for the month of January from Hobby Design is a Rocket Bunny conversion for the Tamiya RX-7. What is it? What do they call that? R1, the North American version of the RX-7. It was reboxed in Japan. With the red car in the box, there was an RX-7 Infini. We got the one that goes to RX-7 R1, which was a North American version. That is what the kit is designed to fit. Well, they'll fit either one, but it's designed to be a North American car. And like the difference there is like $20, $30 between getting it from Hong Kong and getting it from HobbyLink Japan. So, at any rate, back to the photo etch. It's a lot of stuff here, and like a lot of Hobby Design stuff, how much of this are you really going to use? The stuff I do like on here, the one gold thing with the netting on it that looks, you know, that is not the harnesses for the actual driver. It includes the window net type deals that are on both sides of the driver, which you get on the Hobby Nunu M6 photo etch. Those things are not kit pieces in the AMG either, I don't believe. And then one interesting thing is, if you notice the top right corner, a lot of this stuff, you're rebuilding that radiator that shows through the giant intake on the front hood. That one in the middle appears to be the mesh and part of the backing for it. So it looks like you're going to completely and totally rebuild that radiator to make it, you know, less molded in. So it'll be easier to paint that, that's for sure. I just don't know how much, you know, bending all of that is going to end up working out. There's obviously the Pirelli P1 things are tire stencils to build the box kit, the demo or the presentation car. You know, not every single race series uses Pirelli tires, so there's only so much use you're going to get out of the tire stencils. And there's obviously just a lot of stuff on there I would mainly be buying it for the window net, because I got to make it look better, even if it's not quite three-dimensional. That's the thing about photo etch. A lot of times you're representing a three-dimensional thing with a one-dimensional piece of metal, and it doesn't look as good. And then all the vents. Because I was talking to, I think it was Ari Steyring about this not that long ago, or maybe it was Patrick, where I said, I want something to replace the vents, and they're like, oh, it's fine the way it is. And I was like, no, anytime I have to cut mesh to fit holes, I want photo etch instead. And that's just me, but mesh looks like mesh, and photo etch looks like metal, and I don't know. I've never been a big fan of the mesh covering openings thing. That's just me. So, on to the actual kit releases for this week. We got the rest of the stuff pretty much for the American guys, for the domestic side of things. And they are from Round 2, the reissue of the Peterbilt 352 pacemaker with the Coca-Cola livery. So this is just a straight reissue of this kit. There's nothing new about it other than the Coca-Cola livery decals. Gives you the ability to put several different Coke liveries on here and several different generations of Coke liveries, from probably something that is appropriate for this era truck all the way up to a more modern Coca-Cola livery. It does have, all of the, well, it's not technically a bingo card because your bingo card was your IFTA sticker on your license plate, but it does have all of the wording. It's hard to explain to somebody who doesn't drive a truck as to what all of that means. But basically, those are your licensing through a bunch of different states, registered with the Public Utilities Commissions in every state. There are still certain states that require you to be licensed through them specifically. Kentucky is one. Oregon is one. Alaska is one. I'm trying to think what else. Colorado, where you have to have certain things on your truck to enter the state. Colorado requires you to have your VIN number on the passenger side of the vehicle. Why only one side, I don't know. But, the IFTA sticker itself, which is the International Fuel Tax Agreement sticker, which is what, these kits don't have that because they were before IFTA was formed. They were the bingo cards where you had to have a fuel tax stamp from every single state you ran through. The IFTA stickers, on a modern semi, which are just little, well, they change every year, but I think they're green this year. They're little itty bitty, well, they were green last year. It's new stickers this year. They're about this big. And that took a lot of the licensing and made it universal. You pay into IFTA, and they distribute it out to the taxes based on mileage you ran, and that's all satellite tracked these days. But you still have to be, there's Kentucky and certain things you have to be registered for various things. Back in the day, you had to be registered in every single state you ran in, and that's why there's some of these older truck things have a giant, long laundry list of state abbreviations with a bunch of little letters after them, which stand for like Public Utilities Commission or whatever, and a number. It has all of that. I don't know that they're necessarily jiving with anything. Like Coca-Cola doesn't have a fleet. It's like Pepsi doesn't have a fleet. Those guys that deliver Pepsi and Coke to your store or to your Walmart or whatever, the guys that drive the little Hackney trucks, which is a brand of the truck that make those roll-up doors. Those guys are your local independent bottler. Like whoever bottles your Coca-Cola or your Pepsi wherever you're from. If you look at your Coca-Cola bottle, there'll be a bottle. Around here, Pepsi is Purchase New York is where the local bottler is. Those guys have, they're trucking companies for the bottler. They're not, Pepsi doesn't have a trucking company. So I don't know if Coca-Cola had a trucking company back in the day. I don't think they did. I think it's always been on that local level or regional level. So I don't know what these licensings will actually hook up to. It'd be interesting to run the DOT number and see what they're registered, what the actual things are registered to. But at any rate, that's back out there. They just ran the 352 pacemaker on a limited reissue without the Coca-Cola livery. So they're selling this kit to Coke collectors, basically, not to modelers necessarily, because my hobby shop still has the original run of these 352 pacemakers, let alone this recent reissue. So, for people who can't find it, I don't know if this is necessarily something that's going to wind up in Hobby Lobby or not, but that is back out. Over on the Revell side of things, we've got our Revell kits for the month. They are the new modified tooling Baja Bronco. So this is the dealer's version of the stroke Baja Bronco. It's not the race car. You should have known that by now. Or race truck. New things about this kit. It appears to have new tires, new wheels. It has a whole new body. by the way. The fenders are molded into the body, so a lot of people were figuring they're going to be separate. No, it's a whole new body tooling, and there's also a new open element air cleaner, you know, the old chrome style with the white open element. So those are basically your, 7 new parts. I mean, the body is obviously the most expensive thing to tool up itself. Kind of interesting that they did tool up a separate body for the over fenders rather than having them be separate parts. But on the other hand, it does certainly eliminate all of the fiddling one would have to go through to get the fenders to fit, you know. So I think also the fender openings themselves are hexagonal rather than being rounded like the factory stock Bronco. So it probably did require a whole new body because unlike Aoshima, which sends you a template for the Rocket Bunny 86 kits or the Liberty Walk GTR, Revell figures you're too stupid to cut out your own wheel wells, so they're going to create a whole new body from it. But other than that, it's just a reissue of the last Bronco, just some new pieces. It looks like the wheels, the tires rather, in this kit are the same ones that are in this kit, which is the reissue of the High Roller GMC 4x4, the 78 GMC. They both have this sort of one-directional wheel. I think that's why these two kits came out at the same time. They ran off a whole buttload of these wheels, of these tires, and just threw them in this kit. I've seen a bunch of people complaining about this GMC truck. It's not the most accurate one. The Fall Guy is more accurate. The Fall Guy is also not the same year truck. It's an 84, not a 78. Completely different front end, but whatever. But this is going to be a straight reshot of the old Monogram High Rollers kit. Different tires. The camo pattern is decal. Basically painted olive drab. The camo decals do everything else, so unfortunately for everybody who was panicking about the fact that they were going to have to try to mask camo, what are they, a tank builder? You don't have to do that. The decals are there. One other interesting thing about this kit that I've noticed from looking through the instructions is it has the gun rack that has been in and then not in, but back in this kit. I don't know. I'm amused that they did that. Now, it's not advertised, but if you look at this, I mean, I don't have pictures of the side panel, but if you pick this kit up, you look at the side panels, it's pretty obvious that there's a couple of shotguns, or a rifle and a shotgun, in this hunting rack in the back of this pickup truck. So, I don't know if calling it the Big Game Country, a.k.a. look at a redneck pickup truck, qualifies it to have guns in it or not. It's just very interesting. Guns have been taken out of the reissues of pretty much everything, including police cars, like the Joker Goon car. If you have older versions of that, TJ Hooker, stuff like that, it had a shotgun and stuff like that in it. Doesn't anymore. The last couple of reissues. I don't know. Be interesting to see if they take any heat on that. See if any concerned parents notice that there are guns in this truck. Just the climate you're in, tend to skew towards political correctness. They didn't here, so I'm interested to see if there's any fallout or if they're not. I mean, I personally don't care. I'm not the person that wants to save the children. My children know better than to touch firearms in the first place, and they're certainly not going to touch firearms because they're in this model truck kit. So there is that. And that, like I said, guys, that covers the domestic side of things that we were expecting for January, so that's all taken care of. Other than the Panamera import, so far those aren't in yet. They'll probably be in at the end of the month. So that takes us over to Japan. We have a couple of reissues from Hasegawa and a couple of reissues from Aoshima. So starting over at Aoshima, Pagani Warrior, just a straight reissue here, just a restock. If you want the photo etch, you have to wait till April to get that. But the kit itself is back reissued. And then over on the Toon model car lineup, they had two kits come out this month, and they are the 86 Car Boutique Club Truno. Basically, this is a late issue of the Truno, as far as the years go. It's like an 86, I think, or an 87. New, well, not new. This kit's been reissued 100,000 times, but as far as what's different about this than like a 86 initial D Truno is it has a obviously different bodywork to it, different front bumper, back bumper, side skirts, and it has T37 wheels in here. Other than that, straight reissue of this kit that's come this way a number of times, just reboxed into this new boxing series. Then there is the 1990 Nissan Safaro Wonder Car Culture. I need to blow the picture up bigger because I can't read it as small as it is. Car Modify. So the Wonder Car Modify. This is basically the old D1 Grand Prix kit without all of the D1 Grand Prix nonsense in it. straight Nissan Safari underneath a whole bunch of aero kit and big wheels and things like that. Again, it's a kit that has been reissued a plethora of times just into the new reboxing series here. Then over to Hasegawa, we have the reissue of the Toyota 2000 GT. This one being done as the 1967 500 kilometers of Suzuka winner. This kit is a reissue of their race car version of their 2000 GT. The new thing here will be the livery. I mean, it's very little livery to begin with. I mean, the door, for all intents and purposes, and it is replicated on the decal. The number cards for the placards for these things were duct taped onto the door. You can build either 60 or 61, which I believe are the first and second place cars. 61, the box art car, is the car that won. But again, just the reissue of the car, different decals. And then last but not least for this week, we have the reissue of the Soho Security BMW 318i JTCC car. This is the Take One team. They are, I believe, still active in Super GT. They're in JTCC pretty much up through 1995, I believe. And then they switched over to JGTC and ran Porsches. And then they ran McLaren F1 GTR Longtails when those came out of frontline use over in Europe. A bunch of them wound up in Japan in JGTC. This car finished 5th in the last race of the year. That's the highest they placed. It might be one of the highest finishes Take One ever gotten in anything. But it's just, to me, it's the cool kit only because this was the one that they didn't reissue when they reissued all of them 2 years ago. Like, right, you have all of these BMW 318s that they did, the BTCC cars, the JTCC car, the auto car, whatever the heck it's called, the Auto Tech, that yellow one. This was the one they didn't reissue for some reason, and now they're getting this out. And I saw that for March they're doing that Pia version of the Civic Fario. So it's good to see them start reissuing the rare ones of these cars. There's nothing different about this 318i from the other ones as far as the parts go, other than the decals. And the decals are complete in the sense that if you put the decals on, you only have to paint the car white. All of the black is decal, so that's nice for people who don't want to two-tone. And it does, of course, have the modified suspension that was put in the car 2 years ago to make the wheels actually tuck underneath of it and not have it ride like a street car. So there is that, guys. That is it for this week. We are awaiting, let's see, 3 kits out of Fujimi and 1 more kit out of Aoshima, the Panamera reissue. Well, U.S. distribution, I should say, as far as Revell. And there's like several reissue kits from Aoshima, but they're way behind on that. Their stock reissues. Either that, or people are not mentioning it because we have. I mean, it's been months now since they've actually gotten all of their reissue kits out in the month they were supposed to. So, like I said, it may just be a thing where the companies that keep track of this stuff, like Hobby Search, stuff like that, are not listing when the stuff gets put back into stock. They're just, it is, and here's the order it and buy it kind of thing. But there is one more the model car lineup car coming out of Aoshima for sure. I believe the Toyota Soarer has been delayed till February, and then like I said, there are 3 more kits out of Fujimi, and that'll be it for the month. So we had a pretty good January in terms of getting things out on time, and then we'll be over into the big old list of February. So anyway, guys, I believe actually this is the last time I want to talk to you this month, right? Yep, because next week will be the 2nd of February. So again, welcome to all the new subscribers for the first month of the year. You actually got here for a 4-episode month in terms of what we've done for you guys, because things were kind of hectic there towards the end of the year. We only did a couple of monthly episodes. Hope you enjoyed it. Hope you stick around. If not, that's okay too. And we'll see you guys on the other side.